Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
Before we begin, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. If I may, I'll start. My name is Roy.
I'm Eric. My name is Eric.
Casey.
Doug. Anthony.
Renee.
I'm Henry.
Bill.
My name is Mike.
Michael.
Ian.
Joe Good.
Peter.
Joe.
Jack.
Bonnie.
My name is Bruein.
Richard Isley.
I'm Ed Aim.
My name is Jerry Marr. My name is Brett.
George.
Sean. Conrad.
Jerry.
Eric.
John. My name is Daniel.
Solomon.
My name is Oswaldo.
I'm Marty. I'm Clint.
I'm Michael.
I'm Tom.
Roger.
I'm Harley. I'm Carl Wolf.
I'm Lee Robbins.
I was going to do that part. That's all right. Every Sunday we have the privilege of having some really great people come and speak and teach us from all over the Bay Area. But it's always very special when a member of our Sangha comes forth to teach. And today we have three, as we know, Lee, Carl, and Harley, who are here to talk about life on a week-long silent meditation retreat. Specifically, the LGBT Spirit Rock Retreat every December. So if you will, help me welcome them. Welcome, gentlemen.
So I'm just going to take a minute or two to say why, hopefully not more than that, to say why we decided to do this. There were, first of all, with the 90 people on the LGBT, queer, et cetera, annual, more or less, retreat at Spirit Rock, which is in the Vipassana tradition. There were 5 people from GBF, the 3 of us, Joe Good, who was here, Patrick, who was here earlier. And so some of us thought that it might be helpful to say a bit about the nature of this and our experiences on it, mainly as a way of potentially introducing other people to the idea of going on a retreat. So many of you have been on the GBF retreats, which generally take place in the fall and which are shorter. But there's potentially 2 functions, at least for retreats. One is personal practice development and right wisdom, if you like, or right understanding. The other is Sangha building, and in recent years the GBF retreats have been pretty heavily focused, though they have both on Sangha building. These retreats, the longer retreats that we went on, are primarily about personal practice development. So it may be an intimidating thing for people sometimes if they haven't done a retreat like this before to think about doing it. So we wanted to introduce it a bit. And we've all had a fair amount of experience. Carl has, I think, gone to virtually every one of these for 10 years or so. And Harley has gone to a number of these, but has also done a variety of somewhat different retreats, including those in other countries. And I've done a number of these retreats and some different, though shorter, retreats.
Great. So I'm going to just give a little introduction of what this retreat is about, because as we all know, the Buddhist tradition is 2,600 years old, and there are a variety of retreats that people go on. Retreats have been part of the practice since the time of the Buddha. And so there are Zen retreats and Tibetan retreats, but what we're focusing on is this one little segment of the Spirit Rock retreat of our LGBT Sangha that has been going on about 16 or 17 years. I've gone to the last 10, and it draws me and brings me back time and again. I'll talk about that a little bit later. But it is a place to really deepen our practice together as a gay community. The overview of them, before I start, how many people here have ever been on a retreat? Okay, and how many people have been on a retreat of more than 5 nights? Okay, so quite a few. And some have been on the Spirit Rock retreat, I know, before. There is a process of how it starts. We fill out a questionnaire to begin with, because when we sit in silence for so long, things can come up. And so the questionnaire asks about the nature of our practice, whether or not we have any kind of difficulties happening in our lives right now, whether it be grief or some other kind of emotional or psychological problem coming up, because that kind of thing tends to bubble to the surface when the mind settles for such a long period of time. So the teachers know in advance if anyone has anything. So we always have that support of teachers. They're LGBT teachers who have much experience to be there for us whenever we need to. So you fill out the questionnaire, you register. When you register, and there are about 90 of us, when you register, you choose a work meditation, which could be anything from chopping vegetables to washing pots to cleaning toilets to doing any kind of housekeeping. That's part of it. The retreat, then, you're given a room, either a single or a double room. And part of retreat practice is renunciation, accepting what you get and working with that, whatever it may be. So if you end up having a roommate and you didn't want one, oh well, there's earplugs. The retreat starts and silence begins. We have usually a dinner first where there is no silence and people get to chat and get to know each other a little bit for the first dinner after registration, and everyone gets their rooms. And then we all meet at the main meditation hall at Spirit Rock, which is a beautiful structure. And the retreat formally begins by the taking of the 5 precepts of non-harming. So a container of safety can develop immediately, that we know that nothing will be taken from us, we won't harm anyone else, no one else will harm us in any realm. In the LGBT retreat, we oftentimes start in an open circle where people give their intentions of what brought them and what their motivation is to come. And that's kind of an important thing for any of us to do individually before we take on this commitment to go on a lengthy retreat of what is our own motivation. And then the precepts are taken and introductions happen, and then the calendar begins, okay? Well, the evening is over, and the first day of the retreat. Every morning at 6 a.m., the gong is rung. Someone goes through all the dormitories. There are 4 dorm buildings, and rings the gong at 6 a.m. for the first sitting at 6:30 in the morning. Each sitting is 45 minutes long of silent meditation. So the first one starts at 6:30, it's still dark, and 90 zombie-like individuals get to the meditation hall and just begin. A teacher is usually up there. No words are spoken usually in the early morning. Perhaps some initial meditation instruction, if anyone needs, but they're very, very basic. Those are expanded as the week goes on. But the daily schedule is 6:30 meditation, 45 minutes, breakfast then at 7:15. And we are in noble silence from the beginning. The purpose of the retreat is to go within, obviously. And therefore, there are no telephones or televisions, and reading and journaling are discouraged. You can do whatever you want, obviously, but if you want to get the most out of this retreat experience, it's oftentimes suggested that we stay within, and that means none of those things. Breakfast occurs. There's a short break after breakfast for people to do their work meditation. Back to the hall for 45 minutes of sitting meditation, then 45 minutes of walking meditation after instructions are given. The land is gorgeous. The hiking trails are unbelievable. And so you have, nature right there, and your walking meditation is really a wonderful experience. And it alternates like that. 45 minutes of sitting, 45 minutes of walking. At the end of each morning session, though, when we come back, there is also a 45-minute question and answer period. So that is the time when we can ask questions of the teachers. We're not speaking to one another. If any kind of communication is needed during the course of the retreat, there are bulletin boards and little pieces of paper for you to leave a short note for a teacher if something comes up, or to a staff member. But right before lunch is this question and answer period where people ask questions about their practice, and other people can respond, the teachers respond. Then we break for lunch. Lunch is a long break. It's a couple of hours at least for eating. And each meal is eating meditation, and instructions are given. And it's just present time awareness the entire week of meditation. It's whether you're on the cushion or off the cushion. The whole idea is to be aware of really what is going on in this moment and not trip out on our storylines and all the other habitual thought patterns that we have, and stay focused on the present. So we're given instructions on eating meditation. The lunch period happens, people do their work, there's time for a nap or a hike. It's the longest period of being off during the day. It's also the biggest meal of the day. The evening meal is usually just soup or salad, or something very light. And traditionally, in the monastics, they don't eat after the noon meal. But and so the gong rings after the lunch break, and we begin again. 45 minutes of sitting, 45 minutes of walking. Every day, mid-afternoon, there is also a body movement session, if you choose to take part. And that's the other thing I want to say, that even though this schedule is, on the bulletin boards in every room, you don't have to take part in every single meditation if you choose not to. If you're fidgety, if your mind is crazy and you need to, walk in the hills, you can do it. No role is taken. There's no judgment. It's just a recommendation of this is the schedule, and if you can do it, the idea is that you'll get the most out of it if you can. But everyone needs to take care of themselves. So in the afternoon, there's a movement meditation, and then walking, sitting, dinner. Every evening then after dinner is a sitting meditation, and then a Dharma talk by one of the teachers, which is really an amazing part of the day, because we're all there together and we hear from our LGBT teachers, from their experience. And there's another meditation after that, and every night the session closes with a guided metta, loving kindness or forgiveness meditation that ends at 9:30. And then you can continue to practice. The meditation hall is open 24 hours a day. You can do that, practice in your room, or go to sleep. And then the next morning, the bell rings at 6, which continues for a week. So that's kind of the overview of the schedule of what that's like. And amazingly, as the week progresses, you see how your mind will settle, even though it sometimes takes quite a while for me after getting out of the rat race.
Thank you so much, and I'm just so honored to be here to be able to share this. I also want to mention how important this Sunday Sangha is to me, to be able to come here every Sunday when I can, and to sit and practice, but also to have the opportunity to hear so many wonderful people speak every Sunday. Great teachers and just our local guys or gals. So it's really quite an honor. And also, again, the idea of going to a retreat for a long period of time is such a deepening, different experience, and it's so valuable. So I'm going to just share a little different things, more to expand to that. Again, I had been to different experiences and different retreats, as so many of you have, where we just have the opportunity to get in touch with ourselves and to nourish and nurture ourselves and learn for insight and awareness. But Spirit Rock is just such a special, special place. The setting, the geography is quite incredible, and we're so lucky to have it available, as well as to have a gay and lesbian group and the teachers. It's quite amazing. I laugh at, sometimes I've traveled a lot. I've been so fortunate and spent time visiting temples and ashrams in India and Vietnam and Cambodia, and have wonderful experiences, but there's nothing like this. Even I just laughed, a year ago I visited Cambodia and spent a lot of time, and I was invited to spend time with some monks. And believe it or not, there was even a gay caucus at this big mosque. Well, I did visit some mosques too, but a temple in Cambodia. But that's a story for another day. There were these gay group of monks in Cambodia. But in any case, and so many of us have been to the retreat that we offer, and that's they're all good. But Spirit Rock is really, really special. One thing that I want to say is on those, the cabins are wonderful and clean and beautiful and spotless, and I just have incredible vivid dreams there. It's just a ton. I don't know why, but I just have these dreams that are just so wonderful, and often 3 full movies in vivid color and cinemascope. And I don't know why, but it's just your mind is just in a different place. And again, that thing about silence without email and phones and chatter and even the yak that we all enjoy, but it's just really special to just go and be silent and have different ways of doing it. Though I must say that, to be honest, it is a gay and lesbian retreat, and some people's gaydar is still on during the retreat, and some people, they say you have the option of not having eye contact and keeping your eyes low and just being into yourself. Many other people do acknowledge each other, or a smile, or eye contact, or if you're hiking in the hills and you're crossing someone, often there's an acknowledgement. And so you have the flexibility. Different people do different things, and some people, you can tell, are very alert to other things, and that's also a lesson you can work with on how to deal with those feelings that come up. I also want to mention that they do have scholarships at Spirit Rock for those that have financial issues. They're really, really good about helping out for anybody, or medical issues. They're really, really good about that. For younger people under 26, they have special things. For people over 65 who have financial things, they're really good. Or anybody, they just are really, really good about encouraging you to come, and people of color as well. The food, again, for me, is just incredible. Again, I've been on places where you're eating, like a little crunchy rice and watery vegetables, and that's it. But this is Marin County, and this is West and they do, it's incredible. Every meal is just this feast, and you could gain weight over there. And it's just the fresh bread and the vegetables and the seasoning and the colors. In fact, last time I even would find myself going and writing down the ingredients, because they have ingredients of everything there. And they make it so accessible. They have a refrigerator so you can bring your own things. People that need medicine, they have refrigerators. For snacks, it's open all day, and there are people that are snacking quite a bit. And they have everything, and for every food allergy. I mean, they really just do such an incredible job. And the food, again, is, and I think because it's the Gay and Lesbian Sangha, they know they've got to do it. And I think they even do select a gay. Actually, there were some gay cooks that were wanting to be there to do a little extra. I always volunteer to ring the bell, not the one that goes around in the morning, but there's a big bell in front of the meditation hall that you can snap before meals, before meditation. And it's just really, really cool to be up there and take this big gong and hit it 7 times. And it's calling people from the hills or from their cabins or their naps. The work schedules is also really cool. You often volunteer for about an hour or so for work. And it can be cooking, or not cooking really, but cutting vegetables or washing dishes or cleaning or sweeping. I've done different things. I've been at 2 gay and lesbian retreats, and I've been at 2 other ones. I even picked one time to clean the bathrooms, being in India and knowing about the toilet cleaners, the untouchables. And I thought, well, yeah, and that's something I really don't like to do at my house so much either. And it was just such a good lesson to just be doing that. And but again, if you want to be alone, you can sweep. If you want to be with more people, you cut. But it's in silence, but you're still relating to people. So it's really, really a wonderful opportunity. The meditation room is incredible. They have pillows, they have chairs, they have backrests, they have yoga mats. I mean, everything in every position. People sometimes have like a whole little edifice, for different people that have back troubles. So it's really it very accessible. It's just beautiful if you haven't been to the meditation hall. There's windows all around, and in the morning you're watching the mist come up, and it's, if you open your eyes if you want, you could look out and see the birds and the deer and the wild turkeys. It's really quite beautiful. The geography, I've been there when it's hot, and they have hats all around, so you just pick up a hat and wear it if you're going to go hiking, and then return it. And when it's raining, there's all these Spirit Rock umbrellas that are available, so they just make it really, really accessible and easy, and I won't say easy, lovely and wonderful and accessible. If you want to take a nap, there were several days, I don't want to say hooky, I took the alternative to go for a hike instead of staying for a one meditation, and I would go climbing up in the hills. Just beautiful trails, and you come into such wonderful opportunities, even to meditate outside. And to meditate, there's little chairs and places to sit way in the middle of nowhere. There's creeks, trees. It's quite wonderful. Again, the meeting with the teachers is really good, as well as the group. There's flexibility. It's relaxed. Coming in touch with the animals and our other Sangha people is just quite wonderful. So, thank you.
Lee, what's something that from this retreat that you learned that you carry with you today?
So I'm going to talk a little bit about my journey on the retreat, which was my particular idiosyncratic experience, which will presumably be different for everybody, but may give you a sense more of the inner journey. So I came to Buddhism initially, at least among other reasons, because of my multi-decade insomnia problem. And I found Buddhist work, contemplative reading, less meditation for me, but the concepts and the perspectives helpful more than anything else I'd found, or at least longer lasting. But the insomnia continued to go up and down. It's been much better over the last 10 years or so since I went to a Stanford Sleep Research Center program on it, but it goes up and down, and it had gotten kind of worse again, though it was sort of going up and down in December. And so my intention in going to the retreat was more than anything else to deal with the sleeping stuff, and I was hopeful, in part because of work I had done through Philip Moffitt's work, and I now often go to the his San Rafael group on Sunday evenings, and have been doing no reading in Buddhism essentially, except his work for his single book, which is there's an awful lot in it, for the last 4 months. So I went to it with some hope that I could deal with that, and with some fear and anxiety. There's the 6:30 a.m. gong, 6 a.m. gong. Well, first of all, it turns out that what Carl said about their ringing in every place isn't quite accurate. I thought that also, but one of the 4 areas where they have sleeping accommodations, they don't ring it. I'm not sure why. I think maybe it's because the teachers are there and sometimes they're up late doing things and so forth. Anyhow, they kindly or accidentally, I don't know which, I think I mentioned the insomnia put me there, so I actually hear the gong in the morning. And so a question was, would I get up? And I did the Buddha stuff. I went through the first night, and lo and behold, I woke up on my own without any gong before 6 a.m., 15 minutes or so, and got up. And so I ended up doing this every morning but one, and it was fairly rainy and foggy, and I also wanted to do my half-hour brisk walk every day, which my body needs. And so I generally ended up getting up in the morning mist or drizzle, sometimes with an umbrella, and doing that on the grounds, which you can do fairly readily, and then going to the dining hall, and as I forget whether it was Carly or Harley mentioned, is always open. Going in, and there's generally be 2 or 3 other people there, and having tea and usually a snack, and then going to the sitting. So I actually did that every day but once. And it was quite helpful to my sleeping, which has been pretty much okay since then. In addition, and it all interconnects together, the thing that I got most out of it was starting to move along the Eightfold Path, which is the last part of Philip Moffat's book, which I've only gotten to in the last month or so. And for me, it turned out, not to my expectation, but to my surprise, and without any conscious intention around it, to be around the issue of right effort. And so out of that, I gained a little, if you like, Buddhist teaching story. You probably heard about the strawberry and the cliff and the person going over and the glass that got broken by the monk's robe and what that meant. If you haven't, it's okay. So, but this was another one. And so my story was my jacket. I would have brought it with me today, but unfortunately since then I've lost it. I don't know what that means. But I'd had it for several years, this wonderful North Face Gore-Tex jacket, and it was just wonderful in all sorts of ways, and it was even a bargain when I bought it. But the one problem was that it had, advantage and problem was that you could either zip it up or zip it down, so there were 2 parts of the zipper, so you could be cool if you needed. And the problem was that makes the zipper a little more iffy. And virtually every time I would ever try to zip this jacket up, it would stick, and I would struggle. And I'd be annoyed and angry and thinking, this is an expensive jacket from this leading place and designers, and why didn't they make it so that it would work right? And so this has gone on for several years, almost every time. And then, I don't know, the 2nd or 3rd day of the retreat, it was raining and cool out there, and I went to zip up the jacket, probably anticipating the struggle, and it just zipped up. No difficulty. And it occurred to me somehow that, I didn't struggle with it. I just treated it gently, and I didn't rush. I was also multitasking. I was zipping the jacket up and doing something else, walking or something. And so out of that, and then it occurred to me that this was about right effort. And so that became the central theme for me for the rest of the retreat. And one of the things they have there's a little gate, and you go through it after you park and go up to it, and it has a thing that you can spin, which has 8 spokes on it, and each one of them has a label next to it, right understanding, right concentration, whatever. And it would seem like I would usually come up to right effort. Now, I suspect that I was really selecting and really could see 3 of them, so it wasn't that improbable. But anyhow, it would seem, there's right effort again, and it would remind me again. And so there's a lot of ways that ties into the sleep issue. Sleep, for one of the things, is kind of like sex. When you're trying really hard to do it right, like, I am going to go to sleep, why aren't I doing it faster? Doesn't work very well. So that was a central piece around that for me. But then I began to discover how it pervaded the rest of my life and where it tied in and how it tied in, and I'm still gradually uncovering to the other parts of the Eightfold Path. So the second central thing that I got, not at the retreat but afterwards, is the beginnings of understanding about how any one root of the Eightfold Path, which is just 2 words in each of them, ties into all the others, and how it really is this complete explanation when you get it all about how it all affects. So, for example, in right livelihood. So I'm a teacher, and my problem as a teacher is I always try to do too much. My 24-page syllabus and my 12 pages of typed notes for my class and so forth. And this presents a problem for the students and for me. And I know better, but it's very hard for me not to do this. And I could also say, where this comes from, but it's not relevant for here. And so that's an example, but the others of them tie in also. And so this was a very central thing that I got out of the retreat. So for me, to summarize it, right effort is not about more effort. It's still somewhat about what kind of effort. That's yet another aspect where you need right understanding and right view and so forth. But it's mostly about less effort. And that's, my particular situation. Other people have other issues. So that was sort of the central thing that I got out of it, and I think that uses up my time on this.
And Carl, you've been going now for 10 years. Can you speak to what brings you back here?
Yeah, well, that's an important question for me. There's a few things that bring me back. And one of them is, of course, the Sangha itself. Some of the people I see once a year, but there is such a connection that is made by being in this retreat with others, even though we're in silence, that sense of community and that safety is so beautiful and nurturing and allows me to deepen my own experience and my own practice. And that's the other reason that I go. I struggle with a daily practice in the craziness of life in general, and I wish I had a daily practice, and I don't, and I get meditation in whenever I can, and I love this group, which I try to attend as much as possible, and I go to a Monday night Sangha at the LGBT Center, so I at least get an hour of meditation a week, even if I don't sit at home the rest of the time. So this annual retreat allows me that time to really devote myself to practice. And it's such a crucible and an intensity that I think it sort of escalates my movement in my practice by going and really putting in my effort that week. It really deepens my understanding of the teachings and how it relates to my life, and it really lets me, when you let your mind settle by day 4 or 5, it is amazing for me the clarity that comes up to see how my mind is working and my habitual patterns. And so that's the whole idea, is to say, okay, I see this now. And it's hard to see that because it's so easy to get distracted in my regular life. When things come up, there's not enough time to really work with stuff. You sit for 20 minutes or a half hour, and then you got to work, you got to go to the store, you got to do this, you got to do that. It's when you don't have to do that, and you're cared for, and all of your needs are met, and you are in a beautiful place with silence, and your meals are taken care of, and there's nothing to really think about of what do I need to do except stay in the present moment. It is amazing what occurs for me every year, and every year it seems to deepen a little bit more. And the beauty of the retreat for me ultimately is seeing my mind become clearer, and I think even more of an impact is the opening of my heart by the end. And how that happens, I can't explain, but that is what happens, that you feel the openness and the compassion. I remember one of the things that I wanted to say that I didn't earlier was that everyone also has an individual interview with the teacher, one-on-one, at least one. So for 15 minutes during each retreat. And there is also a period where everyone has a small group with an individual teacher, like 5 or 6, for a 45-minute session. So you have a chance to process some of your stuff. And when the teachers are all doing the interviews, people volunteer to be practice leader for the session, so someone can sit on the dais looking at everyone and keep the time, and at the end of 45 minutes ring the gong. So I volunteered for that this year, and it was later in the week, and it was an overwhelming experience for me of sitting there looking at 90 of us, all looking at me. I mean, all facing forward, eyes closed in silent meditation. After my heart had a chance to open on day 4 and 5 and 6. And that love that I felt in that room of all of us putting in this effort together to get in touch with our own selves and our own goodness and our own hearts was an amazing experience. I mean, I opened my eyes the last 5 minutes before I rang the bell just to look at everyone and take that energy in. So it's that kind of a feeling that brings me back year after year. And hearing the teachings every night from gay people, hearing their life experiences, which mirrors mine in a lot of ways and everyone else's. You don't get that in a non-gay retreat with non-gay teachers. Not saying one's better or one's not, but to me that touches me deeply. I want to read one short paragraph from this magazine, Buddha Dharma. This issue, spring 2011, had a article on retreat practice, and this was written by a guy named Andrew Holchek, who is a Tibetan practitioner. And he says, as with the path itself, when you enter long retreat, you're asking for it. To wake up, karma has to be purified, and retreat is a karmic accelerator. The repressive mind relaxes in retreat, and all kinds of crap comes up to be burned in the fires of your heightened awareness. Be prepared to face what you have stuffed, refused, into your body-mind, as the refuse breaks loose and is flushed to the surface. And remember that as dark as some of it may be, beneath it all is a pure, brilliant light, your basic goodness. As Trungpa Rinpoche said, meditation isn't a sedative, it's a laxative. If you're lucky, you will get the shit blessed out of you.
Harley, for you, can you name some of the ways that being on the retreat and your daily life came together for you?
Okay, yes, so much. For every retreat, it's so significant that you're able to separate from your busy life, and you have this time to look within and to get in touch with your own self and with your own world and the universe. These last 2 years have been especially important to me on the issue of mortality and death, not in a negative side, but a very positive way. So last fall was the one we're speaking of, but then I was at the one the year before. And that's just great. You come back, you're all refreshed, you have a good perspective on the world and your life, and all your blessings and all your disappointments and acceptance. And so soon after I came back a year ago, my dear friend that I've known since college, probably my closest friends, was diagnosed with 4-stage cancer. And that was quite a thing to deal with. And I feel that from my time, just a few weeks before that, I was able to deal with it and with a much easier way. Again, I'll just mention that in my early life, death was always sad, and visiting the cemetery was always just so sad and sad and sad. And then so many people I know going to India, and widows would throw themselves on their husband's funeral pyre. They're so sad. Or some people, the women would wear black their whole lives if somebody died, and it just seemed so negative. And then I go to the Philippines, and it's All Souls Day, and at the gay bar front, people are dancing in the disco, and then the next day everybody's going to the cemetery and having picnics and taking pictures and having balloons, and it's more like a festive. So it was just changing my view. And in study of Buddhism, it's just been a really positive way of looking at mortality and death. And so this, how it affects, there's 3 things that happened in the last few months. I had an old Aunt Ardell here in San Francisco. She was 85. She went to sleep one night with a headache and never woke up, and that was one thing. Again, in the last week, 2 weeks, what's happened in Japan, in one moment, in one earthquake, and one tsunami, thousands of people have lost their lives, and then just millions, the suffering that they're going through. And again, knowing Japan so well, and as we all know, such a highly civilized, cultured society, how it can change in one moment and how to deal with that. The third one that's very current was, again, my dear friend who passed away just a couple months ago. So after she got diagnosed, we had some time, and I was preparing to go on my 4-month trip to Asia. And of course I thought, well, I couldn't go because she's sick and I want to be there and this and that. And she insisted that I go, and I said, no, I can't. I have to be here with you and this and that. Anyway, then we finally decided that I would wait and postpone it and go with her to her first chemo and make sure. And the doctor assured me, well, didn't assure me, but suggested she'll be here. And she said she wouldn't let me cancel it. I had to go. So anyway, I did end up going, and we exchanged emails and photographs, and it was really quite wonderful. So I had the courage to do that rather than to be here being either a help or a pest to her while she was dealing with that. In any case, I came back, and again, we had 9 months of wonderful time together. And again, she actually was here. She came with me one day when Sylvia Boorstein spoke here, and that was such a joy. And again, we've been on this path of Buddhist study for a long time, so it was really quite wonderful to teach and learn together. And she'd been to Spirit Rock as well. I'll just mention real quick the time leading up, as for this last retreat was coming, her condition was going lower. And even though every day, she got up and had a wonderful day and made the best of it and never complained, Buddhist study and teaching really helps you when you're sick, if you let it, I think, or practice enough or have the spirit. In any case, and I was anticipating I can't go to the retreat because I want to be there when she passes and this and that. And we talked about it and said, no, you have to go. Anyway, it turned out she died just like 3 or 4 days. She passed away before the retreat. And actually, when I was getting so nervous, I just said, I just have to do one day at a time and see how it goes. I'm not going to worry until the day before and then see what happens. And I'll also I just want to mention something with, if we're lucky enough to be with somebody who has a beautiful death, she had such grace during this time. And we were so lucky, again, every day, even when she was so weak, she was so, every day get up and do things. 2 days before she passed, we went to the Berkeley Marina and went for a walk, and friends came, and we had dinner and laughed and had ice cream. And then one day she went to bed, and the next day was in that state of something. And then the following day, we thought she was going to pass away in the evening. I called up and I said, no, she's still breathing, but in this other state. And I went over there and brought music because she had made tapes of music for her own celebration of life and for her reception. So I put on the music, And people were there, and they were all scattered. The lights were bright, and I lowered the lights, put on candles, put on her beautiful music of Stevie Wonder and John Legend and Mavis Staples, and just this wonderful, soothing music. And people gathered around her, family and friends, and she was able to pass away just on the last song of the thing. I mean, it was like a movie, The Twilight Zone, you know, but it was so lovely. And I think she just had that nurturing thing, and the music and the family and the setting, that she just let go on the last song. I mean, at first it was for like 45 minutes, and then Oh Happy Day, the Edwin Hawkins singers, and then we got to John Legend, Let the Light Shine. I mean, that's what happened. So anyway, it was 3 days later, and I was anticipating, should I go or not? Should I stay with the family and friends and her kids to grieve? And then I thought, no, I better go. And I did go, and it was the best thing for me, and probably for them too. So I had this opportunity to grieve and to mourn at Spirit Rock. And all this going on, at times in meditation, all these things came up. But rather than being busy with people or preparations, I was able to get in touch with my feelings and my loss and my happiness and really face them. And I think that was really, really healthy. On walking meditations, there were days I went off hiking, because we used to hike up in Tilden all the time. So it would just remind me of our wonderful hikes, and I would laugh and be happy, and then of course be sad. And actually, one afternoon when I was hiking by myself, I had a really, really good cry that I don't do very much, and I don't do or have the opportunity or let happen. But right there in this beautiful place, I was able to just be bawling for a while and let out my sadness, and I came back feeling much better. And I know I wouldn't have that opportunity in my life here in the city so much. So that was a gift. Also, in my sharing with the small group, I was able to do that. And with Carl, before we went into silence, I was able to do it. And it really was such a good healing for that specific thing, but also for my whole view of life and the blessings we have, and to try and be present. So that was before, during, and after. Coming back from that, I think the experience was so helpful to have the strength and the understanding for her celebration of life that she planned with the music. And it was we had to go tell everybody it's not, this is going to be a Buddhist hippie, not hippie, but a Buddhist 60s people funeral. And it was just so wonderful, and it was happy, and Stevie Wonder was playing through the church, and it was just wonderful. St. Francis was the only religious person that was in the room. And also, just last Sunday, we went and scattered her ashes down at Pescadero, and it was just incredible. But it wasn't sad. It wasn't tearing, beating the chest. It was a celebration. I think that retreat really gave me the opportunity and the space to come in touch with those things, process, accept, challenge, and equanimity is something that's really been helpful. And so, yes, the retreat was very helpful. It did interact my life, and I treasure those days and those opportunities.
Thank you. We're going to be wrapping things up now. Are you going to stay for the social hours? So
Sure.
if you have any questions or any comments, please bring that out there, all that good energy. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming today and for sharing with us. It's a real privilege.
When does the retreat happen?
Oh, that's a good point. This year, it's going to be 5 nights only because of some scheduling. And it starts October 1st. So it's October 1st to October 6th, 5 nights, and registration opens June 1st. So spiritrock.org is the website address. That's where you can download the forms or read more information about it. And if you want to get any more information, I'm sure any of us will speak to you. I sure will if you want to question me any more about how it goes.
How long was it in December?
It was 6 nights.
Oh.
So it was one extra night. It had traditionally been 5 in the past years, but people were saying, boy, we'd like it a little bit longer. I mean, you can get retreats that are 3 months long, at Insight Meditation Society. Spirit Rock does 2-month-long retreats. The Tibetan tradition does 3-year-long retreats. So the whole gamut is there, but people who were in the LGBT retreat were saying, boy, our mind is just starting to settle down on day 4 and 5, and then we have to transition back. Can't we make it a little bit longer? And so we extended it, another night to 6, and that other night really does make quite a bit of difference, where you already are kind of, your mind is settled and you're into the routine and you have a whole other day of it. It allows you to really deepen. So, but this year is going to be 5 nights, so if anybody's interested in doing it, it's amazing how quickly the time will go. And I remember my fears the first time that I did it of saying, what's the worst that could happen, right? I'll take an ambulance to Marin General. If I have a nervous breakdown or something, or my car is right there. I just say, okay, I can't handle it. No one's, none of that even came close to happening. But the fears came up, and you work, you just work through it. But you get into it, and it's.
Do they do it at different times of the year? Like this past one was December. This one's now in October.
They do it different times. They do. It has been in April in the past.
Okay.
It depends on the Spirit Rock calendar and the teacher's calendar. Yeah, so it is. It's different every year.
I just want to mention one quick thing, too. When I first went there, the 45-minute sitting meditation was a little daunting to me. I mean, I remember years ago in yoga, we had a 3-minute meditation, and it was like too long. But you work up to it, and you learn, and it's better. And after doing 45 minutes, and of course you can get up and stretch or leave or do whatever you want. But after you do 45 minutes for this whole week, then when we come here for 30, that's a breeze. Practice.
Do you know who the teacher is going to be this year?
It's going to be Larry Yang, Arena Weissman, and I'm not sure who the third one is this year. This past year, it was a wonderful man named Pascal Auclair from Montreal.
Yeah. So if I can add to that, one of the things that was significant about being an LGBT retreat is that most of the Dharma talk lessons, and there were Dharma talks every day, were about some of the particular kinds of pain and suffering that LGBT people get individually and as communities, and the very personal experiences that the teachers had sometimes with their parents, and not all about being gay. And a thing that in particular that you reminded me of that struck me was that towards the end of it, when Pascal talked, he just mentioned after we had gotten to know him that a very significant part of his spiritual practice had been being diagnosed as HIV positive 16 years ago, and the impact that it had, and how it had been, both his greatest struggle, but also the strongest factor in his spiritual development. So I thought that was important because I'm sure there were a number of people there who were HIV positive, and it was also interesting that this retreat, which I hadn't noticed so much before, had several people who were trans persons, and who, several of whom, I'm not sure if they've been the same people or not, who were also very big, enough to the point where they had to go around in wheelchairs part of the time. So it was a very open retreat to people with all sorts of difficulties. And one of the things that happened when I went to my small group, and I mentioned my own struggle with insomnia and all these other people looked just fine to me. Turned out, first of all, when the teacher asked, 6 out of 8 of them had insomnia problems, and everybody had something really significant in their life. They'd just broken up, and in a long-term relation, etc. So whatever difficulties you might be having, be assured that there will be other people there that have difficulties too.
Welcome to the First Noble Truth.
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. How about announcements? Any announcements today?
I was making some announcements several weeks. Sorry, be so repetitive. We're trying to get a booth in the Castro Street Fair. It's way in October. I know it sounds like a zillion years away from now, but actually time does go by pretty quickly. and it takes some planning. It's more than one person can do. I want to have like maybe a committee of 4 or 5 people at least. If you think it'd be a cool thing to do to have a booth, if you want to have an opportunity to volunteer for GPF, and believe me, it's not a huge obligation to take on. Please contact me afterwards so we can start getting together.
Thank you.
I have personally found this oftentimes when we work in small groups together to be very beneficial and gratifying. I've heard other people say the same thing. So I've sort of been thinking of other ways we might organize some time so that the Sangha can meet separate and aside from those single monthly opportunities to do that. And so if anybody's interested in trying to make that happen or interested in participating in how we can create a space where that can happen, please see me and I'll try and see what we can put together.
Thank you.
I sing in Nick Avens chorus here in San Francisco, and we will be performing our next concert at Davies Symphony Hall on April 21st. I left some flyers by the sign-up sheet if anyone is interested in coming.
Thank you. Okay.
Yes, I'm Kei Matsuda, and I'm the host coordinator of GBF. And on behalf of the group, I'd like to welcome all of you this morning. I'll be functioning as a host this morning. And there will be a social period, and so stay and enjoy the refreshment. And if you use teacups, please wash them and put them on the rack. There also is a sign-up sheet for newcomers. So if you'd like to receive our newsletter and stay in touch with the group, please leave your address, email address, and street address. And there usually is a group of people who go out for lunch around 12:30. The group meets around the front door of this place. And finally, I'll be coming around with Dana Ball, and suggested donation amount is $5 to $8. But we would appreciate any amount that you can give to support this organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Kay.
Yeah, I mentioned during my talk that on Monday evenings there is a sitting group, an LGBT sitting group. So it is very diverse with age, with gender, and sexualities, and it meets every Monday when the center is open at 5:30 in the evening for 1 hour. It's the same format as here, half-hour silent meditation, but instead of an hour talk, it's about 25-minute talk and a closing. And so it's in room 300 at the Gay Center on Market and Octavia every Monday at 5:30. So everyone is welcome if you want to get another half-hour meditation in during the week. It's a good way to start on Mondays.
Thank you. Jeff?
Geez, so many announcements today. Sometimes we never have any. Well, whenever I say something, it's about the newsletter. Every other month we send out our GBF newsletter, and so today is that day for sending out the hard copies. The newsletter is available on the website, but we also send out hard copies to both local and distant people, which includes a lot of prisoners, probably 200 prisoners across the country. So I need 8 or 10 volunteers to gather together after the social chat time so that we can label, stamp, staple, and fold and all of that. And I have a second volunteer request, which is one time only. 2 months from now, at the end of May, I'm going to be out of town, and so for a one-time volunteer opportunity, if somebody would like to step up and do what I do, which is just boss people around and tell them, do this and do that, just on the that Sunday, which I think is May 29th. That'd be great. So please ask me. And so we'll probably gather in about 20 minutes or so after people have a chance to decompress.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, let's go ahead and stand for our dedication of the mirror. By the power and truth of this practice, may all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all be free from sorrow and the causes of sorrow. May all never be separated from the sacred happiness which is without sorrow. And may all live in equanimity without too much attachment or too much aversion, and live believing in the equality of all that lives. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.